Strategist here, and for today's video, we're going to be covering Svarog's End of Divine Quest event. There has been a slight delay to this. I'm just going to say school, allergies, corrupt video file. Moving on. As is usual for one of these type of videos, I have copied over the original quest so that I could change where the outputs are and move around the things to make it easier for everyone to follow the information. Your answers may not be listed in the same order mine is, and your node numbers may not be the exact same because I've edited it for display purposes. Moving ahead, we see we have the standard by now restrictions for the event to happen. Have you progressed far enough into your divine quest for this to pop up? Yes, yes, and check. Good, we're good on that. Are you a follower of Svarog? Kind of required to make sense. Are you in the metallic biome? 50% of the time, so basically 50% chance on your turn. And do you not have tag Divine 38? Now, I discussed this type of system before under the Zyvana video, and there was a slight issue in it, which is kind of goofed. The one and only thing I really covered in that video, and I was wrong. You can take this option. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit. There's an option to retreat. It says retreat and come back another day. It gives you that tag that says this event cannot come up again. What slipped my vision was that what this does is it gives you the rune forge, like it spawns a settlement, and then that works off of a secondary event similar to this one, with basically the same things but a slightly different start. Zyvana does do this same thing. And the reason why I neglected to notice this is because this is actually a symptom of when this event was in the coding of the game. Basically, they didn't have in the event usable only once checkmark. So this is the older style that they had used to make sure that an event didn't keep spamming you. I got this information admittedly because I had spoken to the developers, because that threw me through a loop, but that is what it is. Is basically so that this event only happens once. It is not a weird bugged situation, though the other information I came up with in the video that it'd probably just be better to fight is still correct. Admittedly, I didn't run that past the developer, but you didn't really get punished if you fought, and it didn't set the tag to make sure the event didn't happen again. So you didn't really suffer for having done other than you get spammed the event. And that actually is still applicable here. If you do not choose to run away, you only have 3 options: to attack, attack turmoil, and attack light. It says attack has brackets as if it was chosen only, like it was restricted. However, you can see by the white line, this event isn't restricted. So I don't know why it has a bracket saying that chosen only. It would make sense, i.e. if you don't have your chosen there, you can only retreat. You need your chosen there. But right now it does not appear to require the chosen one to choose that first event. I have no clue how far or useful it would be to not use your chosen one, as they're likely going to be one of your stronger characters anyways. But if you want to, it's an option. Also, the other 2 choices here aren't necessarily good choices. Unlike where Zyvana, where it required your character to have a beast tag or a druid tag, this one is checking you, the player, if you have the turmoil or the light tag. Now do note, these are not the same tags that you get at the end of the quest. I call them the light and divine tag because that's what they represent in the choices, but really those are tag div 18. They're not actually the light or turmoil tags in name. If you choose either of those 2, and by the way, there is a line here, but I took it out just to make it easier to see. If you choose either of these 2 and you win the fight, you don't win anything. If you lose the fight, you take 100% of your maximum hit points, spiritual health, and damage. So that kind of sucks. And that's really all that happens, though. If you don't choose this, while you do have what appears to be a much harder fight, as opposed to a 0 physical, 0 magical, 3 spiritual, you have a 10 physical, 8 magical, 8 spiritual. So much harder fight, but if you win, you get 50 and 20 grand gems and 30 dragon bones. If you lose, however, you take 50 to 60% of your spiritual health as damage, and one of your characters is guaranteed dead. So you can choose these if you have the option for a safer fight, but If you actually want like a reward in the middle of this, go to the top route, even though it's only 25 and 30, so you're not crafting much out of it anyways. This goes on over here, and this just splits us between the two. So to double back, what we are checking on for this, it says missed, because it was copied from a different event. Really what it is it's checking whether or not a person has 20 or higher craft. It checks what it calls gobs, which is just really, do you have a dwarf? It checks what it calls sham, which is, do you have craftsman? And it checks what it calls spirit, which is just, do you have 15 or higher wisdom? However, because this is a copied event like the other one, it doesn't check spirit. So wisdom doesn't matter for now. I'm firmly under the belief that this has to be a bug. This has to be, it doesn't make sense otherwise. Because if we look at this, they've done work that doesn't lead to anything. And I should also bother to point this out to the developer, because I don't believe this is intended. Gob Z checks to see whether or not you have 1 or higher gobs, which you said was a dwarf. So do you have at least 1 dwarf? Boom. Then it checks to see if you have 3 or higher shams, which was craftsman with the 20 or higher. Or no, craftsman with just a craftsman tag. Sham needs 3 crafts. Then it checks, do you have one or the other? You don't need both. So you either need 1 dwarf or 3 people with a craftsman tag. Then it checks to see if you have at least 3 spirits, which was wisdom of 15 or higher. And then it checks to see if you have 3 or higher mist, which is crafting of 20 or higher. Crafting skill. Then it mixes them together in a thing called magical, but it doesn't check magical. It checks mystics. It's a really simple fix. That's why I think this is a bug. I think someone just clicked slightly wrong, magical and mystical looking the same, and then because they copied that event to edit it for all the other deities, this bug carried through to all the deities. So what this means is, since it's checking mystics, not magical, the spirit one does not apply. Only mystic does, which, as we discussed, was crafting of 20 or higher. So really what your prerequisite for this is do you have 3 people with the crafting tag, so craftsman, or 1 dwarf? One of those 2 things, and a hard check on you need 3 or more people with 20 or higher in the crafting skill. This causes a weird situation, which, because you already need 3 people with 20 or higher in crafting, kind of basically implies you have 3 people that already have the crafting tag. You know what I'm saying? So really, the spirit's never checked. By process of how it works, dwarf is kind of never even bothered to be checked. Because if you, dwarf would be checked if somehow you had 3 people with 20 or higher in crafting, but somehow didn't have 3 craftsmen. If you're at some weird stage of the game where you have 3 people with 20 or higher in crafting, you're probably not even caring if you succeed at the divine quest anyways. You're probably about to win the game, if that makes sense. Like, that's really high for a non-crafter. So, kind of generally, as long as you have 3 craftsmen who have 3 or higher or 20 or higher in crafting, you're good. Dwarf is a safety backup and spirit's never checked. If they switch it and spirit is checked, then dwarf is now a possibility, because you could pass off of just spiritual power, the spirits anyways, which was wisdom. Like Zyvana, this is an either or situation. It looks like there's a lot of lines, but it all comes down to, did you meet the prerequisites or did you not? Everything else in the middle is just information. It doesn't really do anything, except for the one at the very end that gives you that weirdo divine tag that I don't see anywhere else. Like, I have no clue where this divine tag is coming from or what it does. And it's at the very end of all the questions. I don't even think it does anything. If anybody is able to go through the coding, I've gone through the coding. I don't find this anywhere other than at this particular node in all the deity quests or all the divine quests. It doesn't appear to ever be used for anything, which is kind of weird. If you succeed and you match the hard prerequisite of 3 crafters with 20 or higher crafting, you get the Svarog tag. Your chosen one gets 4 luck, and you get the tag that unlocks Triglaive. If you somehow didn't have the craftsman, Then you get to choose one of the domain tags, turmoil or light, which as we went over before under the complete guide to humans, which I'll try to relink to up above. Humans with the light tag make super craftsmen, and the turmoil tag, I think orcs had an option off of it, but for humans at the very least, it was just rogues and the like. Between those two, I would say the craftsman would be good, particularly because you're only down here if you didn't have craftsman, if that makes sense. Because if you had a dwarf but no craftsman, you weren't passing the thing anyways. So maybe you want to choose light as it currently stands so that you can get better craftsmen, unless you're just going for a really mobile build and you hate the idea of craftsmen, then go thieves. It's really what that comes down to. But that brings us to the end of this. A lot of nodes for what is a very, very simple thing, oddly enough. If you found this in any way entertaining, click that thumbs up. If you find the video educational and would like to learn more later on, click that subscribe button. Pow, pow. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.